Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, helping you to find jargon-free information before choosing a professional to help solve your problems and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Retirement conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have financial advisor Ray Croff, CEO of Mobius Financial Advisors, LLC, all the way from Denton, Texas. Now, Ray, who has a wealth of experience in the area of financial planning, will be talking to you today about exit planning for small business owners. So, if you are one of the many small business owners out there in the Denton, Texas area, and you feel that today's topic may be something that you can relate to, it might be a good idea for you to, just take a break, down tools, log out of Facebook, stop the Twittering, Instagramming, or anything else you happen to be doing. And you might even want to grab a notepad and pen and get ready to take some notes as we listen in to what Ray has to share with us today. So let's not keep him waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Ray.
Thanks, Stuart.
You are so welcome, Ray. Glad to have you on the show. So let's just jump feet first in, briefly, in your own words. Please describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Well, I'm a certified exit planning advisor, and most small business owners really don't have an idea of what that really means. So where I have some come to me directly, but most of the time, I'm usually introduced to the business owner from one of their trusted advisors, either their CPA, mostly from their CPA, but they might have an attorney or a wealth manager that refer them to me. And they're usually baby boomers. They've spent years building their business, and it's usually provided pretty good income, living for themselves and their family. And now they're starting to think about how they're going to sell their business to fund their retirement. So that's normally how they come to me.
Okay, thanks for sharing that with us, Ray. So before we move on to our next question, let's just take a moment to make it absolutely clear that anything you share with us today is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Now, can we both agree on that, Ray? And would you care to just expand on that in your own words?
Sure, it's not legal advice or even tax advice, even though when we are preparing a business to sell, there's a number of advisors that need to be on the team, which would be an attorney, an estate attorney, usually a business attorney, and usually a CPA. And that will be their area that they work on.
Now that we know that, when you think about those people who come to you for your help, then Ray, what's the most common misconception? I know there is just so many out there. However, we are limited by time. So let's say one or two bullet point misconceptions that they have surrounding the topic of exit planning for small business owners.
Probably the most common misconception is that they are convinced that their business is actually sellable. And what I mean by that, I guess a better term would be transferable. These business owners, they've been in their business for 10, 20, 30 or more years. Again, it has provided them a good income. And when it's time to sell, they figure it's going to be just like a home. They're going to, put a sign up and somebody's going to want to buy it. But a business is not always sellable. Okay? Right. And so what I mean by that, when I say is it transferable? For example, when you buy a car, you're worried about the unknown. Okay, you're worried a used car. You're worried about, has there been any accidents? Is there anything under the hood that I should know about, but I don't? Same thing with a business. It's all about risk. So when a buyer comes up and looks at a business, they're thinking about risk. That's the big key. And one of the big risks might be dependency on the owner. The business is totally 100% dependent on the owner. They have all the vendor relationships, customer relationships. Everybody answers to them. So that is not transferable. So that business right there is not sellable.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. So, based on what you just shared with us, and Ray, and obviously keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, please share an example or a case study even of how you have helped, or even how you would go about helping somebody that had that misconception or that challenge that you just described, and what kind of transformational results, because you're in the business of transforming people's situations. Yeah, what kind of transformational results you were able to, or in general, would be able to gain for them?
Okay, so the market that I work in are the micro to small business owners, which means anywhere from $1 million in sales up to about 25 million in sales. Those business owners, million, 2 million, 5 million in sales, they built this business from the ground up normally. And so the business, for the most part, in most situations, is very dependent on them. So when they first come in, we have this conversation and we do a very in-depth fact finder, and we usually discover that, yes, it's very dependent on them. Now, if they're to the point where they want to sell now, that's fine, or they may be looking to sell in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. It doesn't matter. Getting that business sellable is important. And so we'll do an initial evaluation. So I'm going to give you an example of one just we finished about 6 months ago. We did the valuation right then and there, not right then and there, but we had an evaluation done. And the value was $4 million, okay? And that was based on what we call EBITDA. It's kind of a cash figure. And then you multiply that times what's called a multiple. And that the multiple is not something you necessarily control. It has to do with a lot of different figures. But so that business was valued at $4 million. So, but again, the business was very dependent on that owner. And so over the next year or so, we looked at their management. We found out which ones were good managers and put the good managers in the right places, and talked about the managers that were not in the right places. And then we trained them and put what's called, these golden handcuffs, golden parachutes. So it would ensure that these managers not only now can run the business, but they're going to be there throughout the sale and after. Okay, because a buyer is afraid that those managers will leave during the sale too. Okay, they'll go and either compete with them or take their customers or whatever. That's a risk. So when we finished with that piece of it and a few other things, the multiple went from 4 to 7. So the value went from 4 million to 7 million just by working on those two pieces alone. That make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's some great insights. So thanks for providing that, Ray. The listeners out there in Denton, Texas, I'm sure they're going to find that useful. So you've got me kind of curious right now, Ray, without going into your background, because you're going to have an opportunity to speak about that shortly. But how many years have you been a practicing financial advisor, or how long have you been involved in the finance industry, so to speak?
Since 2005.
Since 2005. So that's quite a long time. So when you think back to all of the people that you've helped to achieve their desired goals, you've helped them with that transformation they were looking for when they first came to you then, Ray, on a deep down personal level, what does it give you? What do you get from it? How does it make you feel?
Well, I tell you what, on the flip side, I'm going to answer that question. But on the flip side, the reason I got into exit planning in the beginning was I was a financial advisor for years, and one of my business owner clients came to me one morning. We had breakfast, and he said he was ready to sell, and he wanted me to help him sell it. And I looked at him, I said, I don't sell businesses. And so I thought, golly, myself, his CPA, and his attorney, at the most important time of his life, financially speaking, his 3 most trusted advisors could not help them. And just to give you a quick couple stats, about 90% of a business owner's wealth is tied up in their business, about 90%, but only about 2 in 10 sell. So just with those two stats, you think about the enormity of that. They work 30 years of their life, and then they're ready to monetize their business, and it doesn't sell for whatever reason. So that really struck me that I needed to do something more for my business clients. And now that I'm trained and in a position to do that, I can help them realize years of hard work and turn that into a lifestyle in retirement that's what they work for. So that really brings a lot of joy to what I do.
You've already alluded to how you kind of fell into the selling of businesses or exit planning. Spend a little moment sharing a little bit about your backstory. You know, how did you get started, and especially share some information about your formal education and your experience as it relates to financial planning.
Okay. Before 2005, before I got into wealth management, I was a business owner, and for 15 years, me and a partner, we built a string of schools that train Microsoft engineers and Cisco certification. And I'm not even sure they even have those certifications anymore, but that's what we did. Okay. And I sold to him, and I was kind of semi-retired, even though I was not old enough to retire. My wife said, "You need to go, get busy doing something else." And so my kids were still fairly young at the time, and so I said, you know what, I want to get into something that was very flexible with hours and things like that. And so that's when I got into wealth management. And I've got a bachelor's degree from University of North Texas in financial services and another one in insurance. I'm a chartered life underwriter, a chartered financial consultant, a registered financial consultant. I've got a certification in philanthropy, of course, an investment advisor, and a certified exit planner. And that part of the business is probably my fastest growing side of my business is the certified exit planning.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is financial advisor Ray Croff, CEO of Mobius Financial Advisors, LLC in Denton, Texas. And he's here today talking about exit planning for small business owners. That's a very important topic to be speaking on. So with that in mind, Ray, and for those people who are listening in right now, what's one of the many pitfalls or even misguided truths that they need to be aware of no matter what situation they find themselves in?
Well, I find that business owners, these entrepreneurs that have started their business from scratch, they're used to relying on themselves. They're used to being in command. They're used to calling all the shots. Mm-hmm. And they're usually an expert in what they do. If they make widgets, they know how to make widgets. But when it's time to sell their business or whatever, that expertise is not necessarily transferable. Okay? So I would make sure that they're surrounded with qualified advisors, ones that they can trust, and that line up with their values. And that will take so much pressure off them and allow them to focus on what they do best, and that's build their business.
So with that said then, it kind of just brings up a question in my mind. What's the most important thing that these small business owners should consider when evaluating a financial planner like yourself?
Yeah, I would recommend they interview 2 or 3 financial advisors. Don't necessarily rely on the one they've been using, okay, because they all have their different expertise, and the advisor that got you to the point where you're at right now may not be the same one that takes you to the next level or the next phase. And to look for someone who has some expertise in that, we call that second phase of your life, but also that lines up with your values. That's so important. I think we get, I'll go to Wells Fargo, I'll do this or whatever, but find somebody you trust, you got a connection with, and they line up with your values.
So what are the perceived obstacles do you see then, Ray, that might be preventing those small business owners from seeking the help of a financial advisor?
Well, two things. Time is one, and also trust. These small business owners, they're being inundated from advisors wanting their business, whether it's attorneys or wealth managers or insurance salesmen or whatever. It's like, so what they do instead of, meeting with all of them, whatever, they just close their door and say, and plus time. They just don't have time. They're working 50, 60 hours a week, right? And so between the two of those, a lot of them do not have a trusted advisor.
Right. So what's the most important question they should ask themselves then as they do consider the services of a financial advisor?
Depending on what they're looking for. But for example, is that, am I ready? They're building their business. Do I know what I need to do to retire? Do I know what that number is? I mean, they need to start asking themselves the questions. Am I ready to retire? Am I ready to pass away? I mean, do I have everything in order? If not, if you don't really are certain that I've got my ducks in a row, you need to reach out to somebody, okay? And many times you reach out to people that can give you a good recommendation on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of times that's how it's done.
So, Ray, you've been in the finance industry since 2005. Can you share a lesson that you learned early on that still impacts how you do business today?
Well, I tell you what, early on, when I first got in this business, I thought I knew everything.
As you do, right?
That's right. I did. And I'd go in there and talk to someone, and I'd say, boy, I know what you need.
Right.
Well, over the years, I found out, you know what, Stuart, I've got to ask a lot of questions to get to know, what does this client need? What is their fears? What are their hopes? What are they looking to do? And take all that in. Talk to their spouse. Talk to their other advisors before I utter one word of a recommendation.
Right.
Okay. And so I think that's the biggest thing I learned. I used to kind of lead that meeting, and now I sit back and just ask questions and let them tell me where they want to go. And then between us, we'll get there together.
Fantastic. That's a great insight. Thanks for sharing that, Ray. So before we find out how the listeners can get in touch with you, what final thoughts would you like to share with them before we close out our conversation today?
I would say for business owners, whether they feel like they're going to sell now or 2 years or 3 years, or they're just going to die at their desk, doesn't matter. You still need to get your business ready to sell for a couple of reasons. Number one, when it's ready to sell, it runs more efficiently. It's usually more profitable. Well, it's always, I'm going to say usually more profitable because your managers are better trained. And most businesses transition involuntarily. Either they get ill, they get sick, or they might have someone walk in and make an unsolicited offer. And if that unsolicited offer comes, you want to be ready for that. So get ready. Don't wait until it's time.
Right. It's just so true what you're saying. Is I myself, I'm right in the middle of the process of removing myself from my business so that the business doesn't, quote unquote, need me in my absence, because I just found that everything was just tied to me. And if anything happened to me, the business would just stop literally overnight.
Right.
So what you just shared totally resonates with me, and I hope it resonates with some of the small business owners out there in the Denton, Texas area as they're listening in, because that was just so, as we say in England, you hit the nail on the head, mate.
Okay, great. Well, you just made my day then.
Right. So if there is somebody who feels that they want to know more, those small business owners out there in the Denton, Texas area, even after you shared so many great insights today, Ray, if they feel they need to know more about exit planning for their particular business, what's the best way for them to find you? What's the easiest way?
Well, on the risk of them misspelling the name, it's mobiusfa.com, Mobious. but they can text me 940-391-5336. That's the best way.
Perfect. That sounds great. Really easy. So just briefly then, Ray, if they do contact you, what will happen exactly? Because I just really want to eliminate any kind of resistance anybody may have at this stage, because you've definitely proven that you know what you're talking about, that you really care about people. You've been in business since 2005, but they still maybe sat on the fence and thinking, yeah, sounds interesting, but what's going to happen when I pick up the phone and call Ray? Is he going to, hit me over the head with a Fred Flintstone club and try and sell me everything under the sun? So just briefly, give them a walkthrough of what will happen when they initially reach out to you, Ray.
Very good. Okay, first of all, I'm a fee-only planner, and so there's no commissions or anything like that. And when we first visit, the clock does not start, okay? Basically, we have a conversation. We talk about what they're wanting to do. I kind of outline some things that we do. We, cover a lot of different areas. It's not just the wealth management, but it's the preparing your business to sell. At that point in time, at the end of that meeting, they decide, this is not for me. There's no charge. But if they decide, I think we need to move forward or want to move forward, there's kind of a menu of things that they can take advantage of, it's estate planning or whatever. And only at that point in time, when they start selecting things like that, at that point in time, they will get a proposal that says, this is what it looks like. Okay, here's the fees for this, here's the fees for that. So they can kind of look and pick and choose or whatever, and nothing's billed or anything like that until they've made that decision.
Fantastic. So you're not going to drag them by the hair and hit them over the head with the Fred Flintstone club, right?
No, I don't even own a Fred Flintstone club. But
you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're missing. That's how I get all of my clients. Anyway. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have time for today. It's just gone by so quick, and I have a feeling that we're just beginning to scrape the tip of the iceberg with the amount of insights that Ray could have shared with us today. However, we are out of time. So once more, as a reminder, we have been listening to financial advisor Ray Croff. Thank you so much, Ray, for sharing so generously with us today. You have certainly demonstrated, hands down, without a doubt, that you are a true educator, advocate, and trustworthy advisor for your clients' success. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
You are so welcome. You're so welcome, my friend. I appreciate it also. And I'd also like to take a brief moment to say a big thank you to you. Yes, maybe you're that small business owner in the Denton, Texas area right now and you're listening in. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and joining us on what I can only describe as a very insightful and informative discussion with one of the top financial advisors in the Denton, Texas area today. Again, his name is Ray Croff. Make sure you do check him out. Give him a call. Visit his website. There are some good resources on there. Send him that text. We're going to have the contact details on the website beneath the show. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever you do decide to do, I am sure that after listening to Ray today for just a short while, that you're going to be in good hands. So that's it for today. Again, my name is Stuart Andrew Alexander. I'm a long lost distant relation of the British royal family, but they don't tell anybody. I'm their darkest secret. But between you and me, we will be back shortly with some more leading retirement professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Retirement Conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present, and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.